Nam yo ho ninge cho 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 nam yo ho ninge.
Hi, I'm Margaret, and this is the website where we take Buddhist philosophy and practice and apply it to the problems and concerns of everyday life. And today our topic is going to be one that I was asked a question about, which is earthly desires. So I thought that possibly we should be talking about how do we handle earthly desires in the pandemic. I hope you all are staying healthy and have been able to use this time of reflection to good effect. This week, I had a question about earthly desires, so I'm going to discuss how two different traditions of Buddhism view them. Then we're going to look at what we know and see how we can apply our practice to the reopening of our cities and our countries. The Dictionary of Buddhism says that earthly desires is the unquote generic term for the workings of life that cause one psychological and physical suffering and impede the quest for enlightenment. They are the fetters or the bonds binding us to the realm of suffering and delusion. Buddhism regards them as the fundamental cause for affliction and suffering. There are 5 delusive inclinations: greed, anger, foolishness, arrogance, and doubt. And then there are others that arise from them. For example, irritability, the tendency to bear grudges, and the desire to inflict harm, all derive from anger. The Hinayana and the Mahayana traditions agree that earthly desires lead to suffering, but they fundamentally disagree on how to handle them on the path to enlightenment. Hinayana Buddhism teaches that earthly desires and enlightenment are 2 opposing factors, and that the 2 absolutely cannot coexist. This path teaches you that you must extinguish all earthly desires before you can become enlightened. Nichiren Buddhism is in the Mahayana tradition, and this tradition teaches that earthly desires are one with and inseparable from enlightenment, because all things, even earthly desires and enlightenment, are manifestations of the unchanging reality or truth and are one, non-dual at their source. It seems to me that practical experience would say that it's impossible to eliminate all desires. If you did that, you would die because you wouldn't care about even supporting life. Daisaku Ikeda says that the real issue is whether the desire is rooted in our deluded nature or in our enlightened nature. When rooted in our deluded nature, we look to the desire to bring us happiness, and we're attached to it. We're looking outside of ourselves for something to make us happy. These attachments give rise to suffering. If we want something badly and lose it, we suffer. Let's say you want a certain house and are quite attached to living in it. Wouldn't you suffer if the house burnt down or if you couldn't afford it due to a job loss? On the other hand, if you weren't really attached to it and had the attitude it could be this house or any other or something better, and then you lost that house, you wouldn't suffer. You could let it go easily. When earthly desires are rooted in our deluded nature, then the actions resulting from them stem from delusion or ignorance and give rise to negative results, bad karma, and more suffering. The good news is that even if our desires are rooted in our deluded nature, when we chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, we can transform any impulse, any suffering, any karma into Buddhahood, wisdom, and benefit. Through this kind of prayer, our earthly desires not only cease to cause suffering, but they become the actual impetus to bring out immense wisdom and absolute happiness. This is why in Nichiren Buddhism we say that earthly desires are the stepping stones to enlightenment. If we chant Daimoku each time we face a problem, overcome it, and elevate our life condition as a consequence, this is the path to change earthly desires into enlightenment. Our sufferings become the raw material for constructing happiness. As Ikeda says, Daimoku is like fire. When you burn the firewood of earthly desires, then the fire of happiness, that is of enlightenment, burns brightly. From faith into action. In my experience, letting go of attachments to earthly desires happens naturally over time as the rock of the unshakable happiness of the mystic law grows in our lives. through transforming one suffering after another into happiness and bringing out our Buddhahood to do so. We build faith and confidence that we can rely on that rock no matter what happens around us. When the sun rises in our hearts, then the outer attachments fade, just like the stars fade when the sun rises in the morning. I would imagine that many of you are just dying to get out and about. We all have so many earthly desires we want to see satisfied. So how do we know whether they've arisen from our deluded nature or our enlightened nature? When you're contemplating doing something, such as going to a restaurant or a store, it might be a good idea to chant about it so you can make the decision using your Buddha wisdom and not just rush into it because you can. To heedlessly go out and mingle with others could result in suffering since the virus is still quite active. In summary, today we discussed the Hinayana and Mahayana views of earthly desires. Hinayana says you must eliminate desires to become enlightened, while Mahayana says that both earthly desires and enlightenment grow from the same unchanging reality. So you don't have to eliminate desires to become enlightened. This path says that we can transform our sufferings into happiness by chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, bringing out our Buddhahood and its wisdom to give us the answer to questions and concerns. Let's apply our understanding to the pandemic reopenings and chant about any place we're thinking about going. Then our Buddha wisdom can guide us. Here are some other vlogs that might be helpful. Number 1, did you know that your life is your curriculum? Number 2, is it possible to be too attached to a goal? And number 3, you're never a victim of your circumstances. I want to thank you so much for your suggestions about topics and your questions. You've encouraged me to delve deeply into study. So keep them coming, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.